Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Time to Ribbit and Rip It! Hello and welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our watch club for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Episode 8, titled Ribbit and Rip It, directed by Kat Coiro. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. I also want to remind you listening that if you enjoy this Watch Club, well, listen, we also have another Watch Club going on right now for Andor, with our first episode out right now where we break down our thoughts and theories on the first 3 episodes of that show. And then once episode 6 hits, we're going to release another Watch Club for the next 3 episodes. So go join the rebellion, give that one a listen, and join yet another Watch Club. And one more little piece of housekeeping here. We also have our weekly This Week in Geek episodes dropping every Wednesday to keep you up to date on the latest trailers and news from around the Geekiverse. With our latest episode out right now where Kevin, Justin, and Darcy, they discuss Figment getting a new movie, a Community movie announcement, Armor Wars being turned into a movie, and their thoughts on the second trailer for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Now, before we do it with the devil, I regret to inform you that our other 2 hosts have been called for jury duty, and for one of them, it's a case involving a certain blue bird, but I'm told that it's a really important case, so I'm going to let it slide for now. So with that said, let me introduce you to the other Hulkster joining me today. He's a little late, but I'm so happy he's finally here to represent us. He's ready to dismiss the deliberation of the deposition given by the defendant of the defenders. He's Darcy, the Dank Devil Hudson.
Now I've got another devil to compare to, and I think I don't hold up quite as well as him.
I mean, listen, you know what? I think you're just as charming at times. I think you can be, although he was pretty
He's
charming
so good,
episode.
so good.
Last week, Darcy, I asked you and Megan what your Hulk yoga pose would be. And I think we all had some pretty, very zen responses. This week, I want to know, what would your own Hulk strategy be to clear out either a room of goons or henchmen?
I would probably go more stealth route, or at least less destructive.
Okay.
I don't want to be known as a Hulk that leaves holes everywhere, I think, would be my thing. Because that
gotta leave notes everywhere.
No one would invite you anywhere at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I'm kind of on the same page. I think, for me, I kind of want, if the henchmen were really dumb, or the hench goons were really dumb, I'd want to start in with going in like very stealth mode, and in Hulk form, I would probably try to pull a Star Wars and dress up like one of the goons and pretend to like blend in with them, but as a Hulk, just to see what I could get away with, just to see how far I could push it. And then once they realize I'm a Hulk, I'd start smashing up the place.
I think they'd realize pretty quickly when you're towering above everybody.
Who knows? Some of these goons are pretty big. Who knows? All right. Well, listen, we got so much in this episode, more than I think we ever imagined. So grab a drink and plan your attack, because court is now in session with the Honorable Judge Nate presiding. All right, this week's episode begins with a previously on in which Jen says, previously on my show, which kind of makes me feel like if this breaking the fourth wall thing is one of her powers, she's kind of getting stronger with it by being able to just talk directly to us with the previously on. Anyways, after the previously on, the episode kicks off, or should I say it leaps off, with our introduction to Eugene Patilio, a.k.a. Leapfrog, where we see him acting like a guard frog for a Monahan's wholesale store, where 2 men are seen robbing some OLED or maybe QLED TVs. We cut between Leapfrog's failed attempt to stop them and Jen's office, where her and Eugene are discussing his request to represent him. And then we see Jen discussing her discomfort with representing against the designer of Eugene's suit, Luke Jacobson, as she doesn't want to lose access to his services. So, Darcy, let's start there. What did you think of Leapfrog in this episode? We knew he was coming since one of the first trailers for the series. Did he live up to your expectations?
Well, I mean, from what I know of Leapfrog or Frogman in the comics, he is just a big joke, basically. And so in that regard, yes, he's living up 100%. It kind of seems like they're going with like a mixture of the two Leapfrogs or Frogmen from the comics, in that the first one was a criminal, bad criminal, got caught by Daredevil and went to jail pretty quickly. But then his son found the suit and wanted to become a hero. And so like that, they kind of look like they're kind of blending those two things together maybe in this one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's kind of only a villain out of stupidity in this.
Yeah. And again, a lot of it comes from the fact that in the comics, he doesn't want to repeat his father's mistakes. But in this one, his dad's just a rich dude. So there is no mistakes to try and overcome or anything like that. So he's just an idiot, which again fits the character to a T and sets up for some really funny moments in this episode.
Absolutely. We actually saw Eugene Patilio in episode 5. There was a moment where he passes by Jen and Nikki at Luke Jacobson's studio, which he was probably picking up the suit that he's wearing in that exact moment. I want to just jump in and say I love the two guys who are discussing the differences between OLED and QLED. It's just one of those, more often than not, very true tropes of guys talking about their TVs. Like, I mean, I will admit I have maybe done once or twice on the podcast talking about my beautiful LG OLED TV.
Yeah, I think I've heard you say it once or twice. So yeah, I'm going to pass you.
Yeah, but it's just like, I mean, guys are doing that, whether it's TVs or cars or what have you, right?
They always got to talk about and outdo one another. So yeah, that's very typical. I like how even thieves talk about that.
100%, dude. As for Leapfrog, dude, I loved him. He actually reminded me a lot of Vigilante from Peacemaker. I got very Vigilante vibes, very quirky, way too sure of himself. But I think where he differs from Vigilante is Vigilante's actually really smart in Peacemaker. And here he's just a big, rich idiot with Leapfrog. Yep. But I love the catchphrase. I love the thing with the jet boots. Actually, honestly, looked dope. Very Star-Lord. Very Star-Lord looking. And until he came slamming down onto the ground on fire. And did you notice the little audio Easter egg in that moment? Did you catch it?
Yes, I did. If I'm not mistaken, I heard the Millennium Falcon breaking down while he was falling there. I'm pretty sure, wasn't that like originally some airplane, like one like single man, like Cessna or something like that? Like it was an engine failing.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it was also used for literally, I think that reason in Indiana Jones when that plane fails. But yeah, man, I was like, oh, sick. Like we're pulling from everywhere now. Yeah. It's phenomenal. I'm so happy. I was so happy to hear that. One of like maybe a couple of really fantastic audio Easter eggs, which we'll get to another one later. But we do see Jen, she's begrudgingly taking on the case. She attempts to discuss the lawsuit with Luke, and he not only rips up the dress that he's making for her, he straight up wants nothing to do with her and her even slight insinuation that Leapfrog's suit might be defective. She exits hastily saying, "I'll see you in court." After the title sequence, we cut to the courtroom where it seems Luke might be representing himself. That is, until his attorney finally shows up. Finally! And we see Matthew Murdoch, who's shown up a little late to represent Luke. He and Jen spar back and forth in legalese, and Jen ends the case with a loss, unfortunately, after Matt uses his abilities to smell residual jet fuel on Eugene's boots. And then Eugene also proudly admits
digs
that
himself the biggest hole.
So bad. And he's like, no, I didn't. And then from that point on, the judge rules in favor of Luke and his attorney, and they exit as Jen begs Luke to go back to being her tailor, and he says no because he hates her now. So Darcy, we can all breathe a wonderful devil sigh of relief. We made it. Matt Murdoch has finally been brought into the show. What did you think of seeing him in the official MCU for the second time?
It was great. Again, I like how he seems, this Matt Murdoch, whether it's the same one from the Netflix series or a different one, he's a lot in a better place, mentally at least. He seems to be in a much better mood, the way he's
happier.
Tossing jokes around casually, and I love it for him. Again, the character in the comics, while he is very dark at times, he also does like have that witty humor. He is a very smart guy, and just the humor that comes along with that is enjoyable. So I do enjoy the fact that he seems to be doing better, at least in the MCU.
Yeah, he's definitely more fun. He's more cocky here too,
Mm-hmm.
and like also a little there's a few moments where you kind of roll your eyes as well, like when he's like don't ask me how I know, I just know. And then the judge is like, yeah, we can all tell he's lying, Mr. Murdoch. Like, don't, you're not
I
that
like
great.
that. I like that because it kind of like teases to that Netflix series, because he could tell when someone was lying from their heartbeat. So he's joking about that, and so people who have watched that Netflix series can be like, oh yeah, I know why he knows.
Right.
But that anyone else can be like, well yeah, that guy's an idiot. Of course he's lying. So
Yeah.
I enjoy that little play on the thing. Again, they're really drawing from that Netflix without really directly tying to it.
But speaking of Netflix, I mean that show ended, I think, in 2018, and it's been so long since we've seen him drop legalese left, right, and he was killing it in that courtroom. Like I was so impressed the moment he opened his mouth. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he's actually like a really phenomenal lawyer at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was also like hilariously grating when he walks in and he's like, I'm here. Sorry I'm late. And it's just like Cody Ziegler, who was the writer for this episode, who also writes for Miles Morales as well in the comics. He knew what he was doing when he wrote this scene. And I thought it was such an excellent moment of trolling where I was just like, this show loves to troll its fans, but this is a new level where I'm just like, dude, yeah, you are late. Like, where were you?
Oh, again, we knew he was coming, and he said,
Yeah.
I think Charlie Cox said that it was only one episode. So I'm
Yes.
glad that they were saving it for, getting closer to the end here, where we are getting more of a meaty, there's a bigger problem at hand here. So I enjoyed saving it for that moment.
And I was so happy that, he like, the amount that we got of him.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to just quickly call out the subtle line drop that we got in this moment, that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed, which makes sense given that we've seen superheroes doing their own thing for a while now, but it's nice to have that confirmation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of makes sense, too, especially after Thanos went and snapped everyone, and that was kind of a result of the heroes of the world being divided by these accords.
Yeah.
In order to fight him, you kind of need to bring everybody together, and some people want to remain hidden and have those second lives. So it makes sense that it has been repealed. It's just nice to have that confirmation, because now you don't have to worry about Spider-Man being unmasked again or anything like that.
Right.
His storylines going forward. So I really enjoy that little throwaway line that ends up being very, having lasting ramifications in the MCU. So
it's such a perfect character to deliver that news to the audience as a lawyer, with just that being such a thing that is so much tied up in the legal system and the government. So, yeah, man, phenomenal. Okay, so back at the bar, Jen receives a green martini from Matt, sitting across the bar from her, and he joins her, and he mentions how Luke Jacobson made some new suits for him, and the two bond over lawyer life, and they really start to hit it off. They start flirting back and forth, and then they're both called away for quote unquote work purposes, and I think that's true for both of them. I don't think either of them actually had work purposes, and then Jen attends a meeting with old creepy Todd, and he informs her, Todd. He informs her that he was at an auction buying art, and that he secured an authentic Wakandan war spear for a cool milli. And he says, nobody's collecting African shit on my level, or whatever. And then after mentioning that he studied abroad in Wakanda, he then tells Jen that the Wakandan people want their spear back because it was stolen by colonizers, but like he's got the receipts or whatever. And then he proceeds to hit on Jen, which is probably why he actually called her for this meeting. And she completely denies him. She pins the table up against him, walks out, and lets him know that she's billing him for the whole hour. And his face turns very red, like a red Hulk. No, I'm just kidding. But let's pause here. Todd has a Wakandan spear. Darcy, what are Wakandan spears made of? And is this technically a subtle nod at the power broker?
It's made of vibranium, and I got the idea of this, especially with the end credits, one of the illustrations of this auction, made me think of Hawkeye, that one underground auction where they're auctioning off the Ronin sword. So it's like these are things that are happening across the world, and taking these like super powerful weapons or weapons that have been wielded by powerful people and selling them on the black market. It's very annoying. Got to say, one of the cringiest moments though was watching Todd throw up the Wakanda Forever.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Oh, I hate that guy so much more with every time you see him on screen. So,
and Darcy, it's not even that he just said Wakanda Forever and did the action. It's also like that this is the first character to do that since Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. Like, this is the character we're so close to Black Panther, like Wakanda Forever. Again,
we're supposed to hate this guy, and they're doing a good job of making us hate this guy.
Gosh. And the voice that he puts on is just brutal, dude.
Yeah. I also just want to say that I'm glad to see where Jen gets the appletini from that we see in the credits every week. We see her with that bright green drink, and she hasn't had one of this season until this point. So,
well, and I also thought that was kind of some subtle horny foreshadowing with the red cherry like floating in the drink, and I'm like, what else is red that's going to be floating in some green later on? You know what I'm saying, Darcy? You know what I'm saying? This is Marvel at its horniest, and I think the entire world is absolutely loving it. And I know I'm loving it for Jen, and we'll get to that later. But I did want to just quickly, I think the spear, in my mind, I think both the Hawkeye auction and this auction absolutely are referencing Sharon Carter and as the power broker and getting these items out into the world. I think she's going to be a huge part of that. I think she's going to be a huge player in Armor Wars, which we just learned is going to be a movie now. And I also think it's interesting because it's highlighting one of the main points of discourse coming up in Wakanda Forever with the Wakandans looking to keep their vibranium. And it's starting to get into the hands of characters like Sharon, or in this case, freaking cringy-ass Todd. Like, so annoying. But I also wonder if he's not able, no matter what, to give the spear back because it doesn't exist anymore. I'm wondering if maybe they took that spear and then used it to make the giant needle that we saw in last week's episode. What are your thoughts?
I was thinking that too, but it just seems weird to be getting this confirmation that he got a spear so long after they supposedly have made this needle. If these episodes are in, a certain timeline order type thing. So
well, he could have been lying about as to exactly when, right? Because he just had a picture of it. That picture could have been from a while ago, right? And they don't often put any timestamps or dates on any of these things that we see because they like to keep that vague. But it's possible that maybe he wouldn't even be able to give. I don't know. That was just my thought.
Yeah, very possible. I was just confused more so than anything as to like, if this is his first time getting vibranium, then what is that needle made out of if it wasn't from a spear type thing?
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. So exhausted from Todd's disgusting behavior, which I think we all were, Jen comes home to crash on the couch, but literally just as she flops onto the couch like a frog, she gets a very distressing call from Leapfrog telling her that he needs her help as he's being attacked physically. He sends Jen his location, and she suits up for the first time in this series and heads to his location. She stops Eugene and his car by standing in front of it and tells him to get out of there. Daredevil does like a dope flip over top of her and then tells her to back off. The two spar yet again, but this time physically instead of in the courtroom. And the two battle back and forth until Jen does a thunderclap that sends Daredevil flying into a car. Jen picks him up and instantly removes his helmet to unveil that he is indeed Matt Murdoch. The two share some lovely back and forth dialogue, including Jen making fun of Daredevil's new suit and also Jen not knowing who he is. So Darcy, let's get into this. What did you think of this moment? What did you think of Jen's superhero suit and the new Daredevil suit? And do you think this will be their suits going forward, or do you think it was just for the purpose of this show?
Well, I love the suits. Both of them look great. I think it's a much needed update to, again, Daredevil's Netflix show looked great, but to distance themselves from that, to go with this new color scheme, I think is awesome. Yeah. And then Jen's suit is great. I love the basketball style shoes he's got on. It looks like she's just going for like a nice little jog type thing. I really enjoy. I like it. It's very practical. I gotta say that is like she is living up to the Hulk name with her property damage. That
Oh,
parking
yeah.
lot is ruined until someone gets over there and fixes it. And that car, she threw that car. It
Someone's
just doesn't
car.
it doesn't make sense.
Who's
You
paying
think
for that?
Yeah, as someone who is a lawyer and understands that type of the thing that goes into that type of stuff, why is she just throwing stuff around willy nilly? And
No, I know.
nearly, like, again, guy's blind, clapping like that. He is like completely disabled. It's that gotta hurt him more than anyone else.
I mean, she didn't
She
know it
wouldn't
was
have
Matt
known,
Murdoch at
yes.
that point, right? So I get that. But I like that subtle line that he says where he's like, she's like, echolocation. He's like, yeah, something like that, or at least it used to be, or whatever. He's like, now that he's been clapped out of his mind. And, they clap out of their minds later, too.
Okay, oh my God.
But continuing on here, I'll say I'm not as hot on Jen's suit. I know that they're going for like a modern take on her iconic singlet from the comics, and they obviously wanted to make it look, more modern, and it's using the exact same color scheme, which is awesome. But I don't really like the fact that it looks like a training outfit. I personally think, and don't ever tell him that I said this, but I think Luke Jacobson could do better on this costume. I think there could be a better version of the costume. As for Matt's suit, I actually do like it. I think this is going to be a one-off suit, though, because I don't think he's going to wear this suit outside the series. There's a line that he says in the bar that Luke Jacobson made a couple of new suits for him, and they were very particular to put that in there. So I'm thinking there's another suit. Maybe they reveal that in Echo, or they might save it for Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking that superheroes always need more than one suit because they usually get destroyed in their fights and stuff like
True.
that. That was my reasoning why you need more than one. I really hope they keep this color scheme because I do enjoy it, and plus it would kind of again build off of that final Netflix season where Bullseye was going around in his fully red suit or red and black suit and framed him for murder basically. So to try and distance himself from that color scheme makes sense to go with again this more comic original color scheme. So I do like it. I hope it sticks around because I do. Yeah. The contrast of the red lenses against that yellow helmet really pops, and I just like that aesthetically.
Interesting. I speaking of Netflix, though, we did get another audio Easter egg. They played John Paisano's Daredevil theme from the Netflix series when he says "I'm Daredevil," and I love the fact that Jen's like, "Who? Like, I don't know who you are," and it just shows that like these street level characters, they think that they're known like the Avengers, but they're really only known within their own communities.
This is what confused me a bit because he tends to stick in the shadows. Even later on in the episode, he's not the type of guy to stick around and answer questions. So,
right.
Like, why is he surprised that this person on the other side of the country hasn't heard of his exploits in Hell's Kitchen? It's just, that seems like he's got delusions of grandeur. Like, oh, I'm so much more important than I am. It's like, but dude, you hide in the shadows, and that's your whole shtick. People shouldn't know who you are.
I think that speaks to kind of what we were talking about earlier with the way his character is kind of a little more of a goofball, which is great, which is phenomenal, and I'm so happy that they're doing that with this version of him in the MCU. I also loved Leapfrog's car. It looks like a green frog, and it was so good. And I think you're right. Like, I think this was some of the best She-Hulk moments that we got in this episode. The ground pound, the thunderclap back to back, the acrobatics of Daredevil when he's flipping around, like the parking structure's like breaking around him, and it was so dope. And then I also really enjoyed how quickly and simply they made the reveal for Jen that it's Matt Murdoch. Like, usually with these shows, that would be like it would take like 2 episodes to get to that
second interaction or something,
Yeah.
second or third interaction after he gets away or something like that. Yeah. The immediate payoff was great.
So good, so casual, and I think it helped to really connect the two of them for the remainder of the episode, which it really did need. And so they were able to really, be themselves while we get to see She-Hulk and Daredevil. Okay, so two of them, the two of them make their way to the less than secret lair of Leapfrog inside a building with a giant neon sign saying Lily Pad, which is just hilarious. And then, side note, we do see the QR code for this week's episode when they're parked outside, where we actually see. I think it's basically you scan it, it takes you to She-Hulk Volume 3, number 9. which is a story involving old Captain America. And actually, where if you do read it, a lot of this episode is actually pulled from, with Matt Murdoch representing Captain America and Jen and him going back and forth in court. So definitely check out that read. It's always lovely that Marvel gives us those. But we do see Eugene has kidnapped Luke Jacobson and is forcing him to make him a new suit after he clumsily destroyed his last one. While discussing the differences between henchmen and goons, Jen and Matt plan their attack. Matt wants to go in stealth, while Jen wants to go in fists blazing. And we get a dope-ass signature hallway fight from Daredevil. And then She-Hulk slams through the roof, crushing a group of henchgoons in one move as she exclaims, She-Hulk smash. And I was like, let's freaking go. The two continue to take out Leapfrog's Leap Squad until he decides that there's no shame in retreat. While saying his signature catchphrase, he jumps out the window and falls, breaking his legs in the process. They save Luke Jacobson, and he agrees to yet again be Jen's tailor, as he says that he'll have her dress ready for the upcoming gala. So a ton of little Easter eggs and phenomenal moments in this sequence. I thought it was, how incredible, Darcy, was it to see Daredevil's signature fighting style again after 5 years?
It was great. And the fact that it was a hallway scene again, clearly this show is so good at referencing stuff that the viewers know and love already, and then just subtly referencing it. This hallway scene was great. I also just loved later on when Jen is rescuing Luke. In the background, Daredevil's just taking out all these goons while providing legal advice.
Yeah.
It was such a great moment. They really know where their humor sits and how to really drive it home. So I loved it.
And they know what the fans really want. And it's one of those things where it's like, again, in the past few weeks, it's kind of felt like, oh, why stop teasing us? Just give us Daredevil already. And then they do. And they give us this hallway scene where they're just like, okay, we're sorry. Do you forgive us? And we absolutely do. And I think that makes up for Daredevil's tardiness with these kind of moments. And I love how we see Jen, just like how this show does, going against expectations while still doing her own thing by smashing down onto these henchgoons. And it was just so good. And a ton of really fun visual Easter eggs. Darcy, you obviously caught the arcade machines that we see there. There's a normal Frogger one, but then there's a similar one next to it called Leapfrog, which, we hear... Eugene, he's like, oh, that's vintage. And I was like, oh, but how would that be vintage if it was a game based on his character? And then obviously it's not. It's Eugene's father, Vincent Patilio. And so clearly that's where that game was based around.
Yeah, and again, you wouldn't have a game if you were a criminal. So I feel like, again, his dad was more of a hero in this, at least in the MCU. So again, rich guy has all these goodies. I just like the fact that we got the onomatopoeia for Leapfrog's jumps, which is sproing, was on the side of the arcade machine, and then it was even sprayed on one of the walls of the hideout there. I love it. Again, what does Leapfrog need a bunch of henchmen for? That was my biggest question. Why are there so many people just hanging out with this guy?
Because it's cool and he has a lot of money. And I honestly, if I had a lot of money, I might end up like Leapfrog one day. I'm not gonna lie. I loved how his whole area, it looked like a almost very Batman villain-esque of his lair. And I also really liked he's basically ripping off as many superheroes as he can, where he's telling Luke, add a fancy AI with a British voice that talks to you, which is very Jarvis. And then you also see in the background they have a frog light, which is very similar with the bat symbol. And I was just like, dude, they're so good. They're so good with these little tiny things that they just hide in there. And it's just, I love it. I love it so much. And you have to imagine that Eugene falling and breaking his legs, which is hilarious because his whole thing is that he's a frog. You have to imagine that had to have been Luke, right? Not activating the boots on his suit so that he'd just fall immediately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, probably. Hopefully you think that was the case, that Luke was just building this thing and then hoping that someone was coming to get him. I mean, he's friends with Daredevil. I think he knew someone was coming for him. So
very cool.
Just buying his time, making a looks like functional suit, but ends up being complete useless garbage type thing.
So freaking good. Oh, that whole sequence was phenomenal. So after the fight, we see Jen sitting with Matt as the two continue to flirt back and forth. And Matt says, hey, maybe next time, he's in town, he could take Jen out to dinner. And she suggests that they skip all that. And then, boom, they smash. And the two get hot and heavy. And let me tell you, Darcy, I've never been so stoked to see two people getting it on. It was phenomenal. And then we get this fantastic cut to Daredevil doing the walk of shame. So, Darcy, Jen and Matt banged. Were you expecting this to happen so quickly? Because I thought maybe we'd get like a kiss, but clearly they were just down to skip all that.
Yeah, I mean, again, knowing that he's a hero, I think goes pretty far in her books to saying that this guy is a good guy. I can trust this one, not like the guy who just one night stood her and disappeared type thing. So I totally love this. And again, it kind of goes back to both their characters from the comics. She-Hulk is a bit of a party animal and just kind of dates around the superhero pool type thing. And then same with Daredevil. He kind of pulls as well. So it makes sense that these two would hit off so well because again, that chemistry and their banter back and forth was just so heartwarming. And it's like, yes, I like this guy. You can trust this guy. Go for it type thing.
Dude, he's got those. What are those sticks called that he uses? You know what I'm saying? That might be used as well. Who knows?
No, I don't want to think about that.
Who knows, Darcy?
I don't want to think about how
the leather suits. Like, there's so much that goes into it. I think that I was rooting for them the moment Jen turned to the camera and said, "Who's this asshole?" I was like, "Oh, they're getting it." It was so palpable throughout this entire episode, and like even the moment when he turns to her and her heart is beating and he's like, I can tell your heart's beating fast or whatever. She's like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, let's like I was fist pumping in the air. That might not be the right thing to say, but I was pumping my fist in the air and then it was just the moment they cut back to her place, I was like, let's go. They had such good chemistry. Anyways, I was so happy to see it.
Yeah, I just gotta say, you said walk of shame, but I don't think Daredevil was feeling any shame in that
true
moment. He looked pretty proud of himself.
That's true.
And
that's true.
Why wouldn't he?
Oh my
that was
gosh.
Just
phenomenal. Okay, so next morning, back at Jen's apartment, we get a huge fourth wall breaking moment with Jen saying it feels like the episode already came to a very satisfying conclusion. She freaks out and asks if the episode is the finale coming up next? And then Nikki comes in and says they got to hurry up because they got to get ready for the gala. And she's really confused. She asks the question, okay, so is this the big twist that, there's another Hulk, but this one's red, or like, am I getting fridged? So this was probably, Darcy, my favorite fourth wall breaking moment in the series, as it did really call out the fact that Marvel with these live action series always does the thing in their finale where the villain is just another version of the hero, but a different color. But with the Red Hulk name drop here, do you think the fact that this is said in satire, that it rules out the option that for our finale that we'll actually see a Red Hulk? Or do you think it's even more likely to happen and that this was like some very not subtle foreshadowing, kind of like the martini drink?
I kind of think it was more foreshadowing.
Really?
That we'll see a version of the Red Hulk, because the other thing she mentioned, being fridged, is kind of just like comic lingo for being killed or written off or injured in some way that you can't be a player in the story. So the fact that she mentioned that and then the Red Hulk, of the two that are more likely to happen, obviously the Red Hulk storyline makes more sense.
For sure.
But where this episode ends has me thinking otherwise. So
okay, we'll get to that. I just want to quickly shout out, though, I love the Wolverine reference with Nikki jumping out with the makeup brushes, and she actually says the snicked, like you can hear it. We do not deserve Nikki or her Wolverine impressions. She's so lovely, and like it's characters like her, and I think honestly like Madison that this series has brought to us, and even Pug to a certain degree, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like they've really been killing it with their side characters in these series. And same thing with Bruno and Nakia in Miss Marvel. Like they've just really done such a good job. Or even with Layla in Moon Knight. Like they've done such a good job to the point where you're like, I want all these characters to kind of even have their own show or their own movie. Yeah, man, so good, so good. I personally think this was confirmation that they aren't going to give us Red Hulk in this series. I think there will be a Hulk, but not as the big bad. And I have more thoughts, and you have more thoughts. So why don't we just get to our prediction segment, which for this series we like to call My Closing Statement, Your Honor, Is. So I'm going to read the final scene for you, and then, Darcy, you may approach the stand. So Jen arrives at the gala as She-Hulk, absolutely stunning in her silver sequin dress, and we see her parents are there, as well as Nikki and Pug, and unfortunately, so is Todd, and for some reason he's talking with Jen's boss, Mr. Holloway. After a mistaken wave, she rushes her family inside, and we learn that the Female Lawyer of the Year award is not just for Jen, but a bunch of women. Unfortunately, not. It should have just been for Jen, let's be honest. Or probably even Mallory would maybe be a little more deserving as a lawyer. While giving her acceptance speech, Jen is interrupted as Hulk King's cartoon face comes up on the screen behind her. We hear a scary voice say, "Do you want to see who She-Hulk really is?" And then they start showing all the information on Jen's phone that Josh stole in the last episode. And while the voice says she's a slut, we see Josh also filmed their night together, and they're putting that up on screen. It's absolutely awful. Jen, embarrassed and infuriated, smashes the screen, and as it collapses around her on stage, an alarm goes off, and the entire crowd run out of the room. We see we see a small group of intelligentsia members start to book it out of the room, and Jen chases after them and manages to capture one of them. She's about to probably just crush this guy, but then Nikki yells out and says, "Jen, no!" And we end the episode with Jen surrounded by DODC agents as she looks at the camera. So this was a huge setup moment that I agreed with Jen. I was like, we were good. We got to the satisfying conclusion. We don't need any more than that, but they gave it to us. And I think it's so good that they did, because it gives us a little bit more room to breathe on the other end with the finale. Darcy, this is most likely our final chance to make predictions for this show unless we get a season 2. So I want to know, how does this all end?
Well, my closing statement, Your Honor, is that I think that this is the first time we've seen Jen's anger kind of control her.
Yeah.
And with the fact that we got a very prolonged fourth wall breaking moment, I'm starting to wonder if this fourth wall breaking, while it's been speculated that it's like her internal monologue or whatever, what if she's talking to another half, kind of like there's the monster inside Bruce that is the green one type thing. What if this is her other half, and it only comes out when she's really angry? And I'm wondering, what if she is the Red Hulk we see, where her anger becomes spirals out of control, and when she becomes the raging Hulk monster that we all know, it's when she goes red, like it breaks the meter type thing. So that was my thing. Like, I was wondering when she said that Red Hulk line, and we got, again, another prolonged fourth wall breaking, what if she's starting to lose her control over the beast that she's borrowing the powers from? So that was my take. I also think that the intelligentsia clearly will be caught in the next episode. It kind of bothers me that DODC doesn't care about who perpetrated the cybercrime.
No,
they only care about the monster coming through the wall.
Yeah, they don't.
So that guy getting away at the end there is just, we're going to see him get caught for sure. But again, my big thing is I think that if we see a Red Hulk, it'll be her being a Red Hulk and being mindless and just going on a rampage.
Interesting. That I didn't even think about the idea of her going from She-Hulk to Red She-Hulk. That would be nuts.
Especially with that final scene when she's in the gala and all the red lights on her, casting her in a very red tone. I'm just like, are they referencing the fact that her anger's coming out more and maybe that she will go red?
Right, because in previous episodes directed by Kat Coiro, a lot of the lighting was green.
Exactly. Like I'm going off of these color cues and the fact that Daredevil was gone by this point.
Right.
And we were still getting that lingering red.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, snap. I mean, he was probably still lingering in her mind too. You know what I'm saying? Okay. That red was lingering.
Okay.
All right.
What are your statement? Let's
order
go.
In the court. Order in the court. My closing statement, Your Honor, is, and this gets a bit vague, but stay with me. My closing statement, Your Honor, is that there will be a Hulk at the end, but it won't be the big bad for the battle. I think it might be like a stinger at the end of the finale. But I do think that the intelligentsia is much bigger than we saw at the gala, and much bigger than we think. And I think it'll be revealed that it's a really huge organization that not only is Josh a part of, Todd is there as well, but I think Titania has something to do with them as well. I think Emil is also involved, as I sort of hinted at with my previous theory last week. But also Mallory, because I will say, originally she didn't want Nikki to tell Jen about the death threats. And in this moment, to me, at least, watching this, her mouth said, "Don't do it, Jen." But her eyes kind of looked like she was saying, "Do it, Jen." So I kind of, like, in that moment when Jen was Hulk raging, I was like, I still don't know. I don't know what to think about Mallory. Because, I was doing some research. Mallory in the comics does end up becoming a villain for Jen to deal with. So I'm like, maybe they're going to pull that from there. I don't know. But I think the biggest reveal will be that the Hulk King is none other than Mr. Holloway. Because we do see him talking to Todd, and I've just been getting this sense as we've sort of been watching this show, and the entire time it feels kind of like, wow, they're just not going to give us this storyline. Where's this storyline? And I'm wondering, with this show being so meta, if the idea of Mr. Holloway being so conveniently placed to bring Jen in for a new job was him using these very small, annoying cases to keep her distracted and to keep us distracted from what's really going on beneath the surface at GLK&H. And I could be way off here, but I feel like, and I don't think Pug knows. I think Pug is as just like with Nikki, like I don't think they actually know what's going on. But I do think that the whole thing could end up being him. But I think the idea is that it's not going to be that he's a bad character, but that he's just being forced to do this. I was doing a little bit of research on his character. Apparently, there's something to do with his daughter, his granddaughter in the comic books, and so maybe his something to do with his granddaughter has to do with the leader. And I'm wondering if maybe, and listen, this is me going crazy fan speculation here, but I'm wondering if maybe the leader is ultimately the big bad, but that the Hulk King himself is Mr. Holloway. What do you think?
I sure hope not, because again, in the comics, the whole reason why he starts Superhuman Law Division is to try and get his granddaughter out of jail because she was wrongfully imprisoned after a superheroing event gone wrong, basically. Right. So to have him be a character who's trying to bring down She-Hulk would be very disappointing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he'd be hulking. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
It's just he was talking to Todd in that moment. I was like, dude, what are you talking to Todd for?
I don't know. What if Todd's just trying to, badmouth Jen again?
Right.
So
Todd's super annoying.
Spend more time. Todd's annoying. Todd's the bad guy in that group. Not Mr. Holloway.
Okay,
Todd.
Okay. All right.
Fuck Todd.
We'll have to wait and see. Not long. We got one more episode, but I think it's about time we give our overall impressions of the episode and our final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 dances with the devil. Darcy.
Well, I love this episode. It was a wicked reintroduction for Daredevil and Matt Murdoch into the MCU. Again, getting to hear him speak legalese. There's the banter he had back and forth with Jen, and then that hallway fight scene. All things that I wanted from a Daredevil episode, and we got it all in one episode. So that was fantastic. Again, I really like how they set it off. Like when we go into this final episode, the stakes have already been set, and it'll just be a wild ride, or maybe a bit less wild, but still very intriguing to see how that falls out before the season ends. So out of all of these Marvel projects, I think this is probably one of the better seasons of consistently enjoyable episodes. Yeah. And this, again, season penultimate episode to me does such a good job of setting up that next one that I have a really hard time finding any faults with it. All the characters are great. The humor is on point. So I'll be giving this one a 5 out of 5 Dances with the Devil, because it was everything that I wanted and more from a Daredevil episode. And then it kept going and gave us that amazing setup for the finale.
5 out of 5. That's probably the same.
it.
That's probably the same review that Jen gave Matt Murdoch.
Stop going back. How many times will you reference that? Come on, you horn dog.
I hope they come back and do it just one more time for no reason in the middle of the finale. Okay, this episode was incredible. It gave me more of what I want from this show than it actually even had to at every single turn. Like, we got phenomenal lawyer moments. We got phenomenal action set pieces with both She-Hulk and Daredevil, both getting to show their skills and what they do best. Way more Daredevil than I actually expected. Like, I thought it was going to be more of a half episode thing. He was in it for pretty much the entire episode. I was expecting maybe a kiss, but no, they banged. She danced with the devil. She did it. And the way that the story progresses and the amount of incredibly paced dialogue and story beats had me laughing and smiling the entire time. The breaking of the fourth wall, Darcy, I was complaining a couple weeks ago that I was kind of losing it with the charm of the breaking of the fourth wall. This time it brought me right back in, because it was Jen basically pointing out the critiques on the past MCU shows, and I was like, that's awesome. That is so dope, and it gives me a little bit more hope that they might actually nail this finale, given that they know it seems like they know, based on that tagline, that they know what they're doing. They know how to avoid some of the pitfalls of the previous finales. But I loved every moment of this episode. I think a lot of these shows, the penultimates, are usually better than the finales. And if that is what happens next week, I'm not going to be upset with just how much they gave in this episode. This episode felt like it was an hour long, and at the same time it wasn't. You know what I mean? And in a good way. Mm-hmm. Not in a way that I'm like, I want this to end, but in a way that I'm like, we just got so much to it. And it was crazy how much we were able to get in that short period of time. And yeah, this was my favorite episode of the series. For the first time with this series, I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5 dances with the devil. All right, that is it for this week's episode of Watch Club for Marvel's She-Hulk Attorney at Law. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or your predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, let me just... You're not going to like this, Darcy. Let me just Hulk spank you over to Darcy to let you know how you can reach us.
Do I have to respond to that?
Yes.
Okay, well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that's too much, like going to court because your suit malfunctioned and it was because of something you did, you can reach us on Instagram at wearegeekcentric or on Twitter at geekcentricyt.
Be sure to just Hulk spank us all over the place.
Stop.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes.
So much.
We have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, like our recent spoiler-filled discussion for Werewolf by Night, where Darcy, I gotta say, was an absolute... He went beast mode, dropping all sorts of dope details that you might have missed, and I know I certainly did, during the Marvel special presentation. If you haven't watched Werewolf by Night yet, don't worry about it. We actually have our spoiler-free review out for it as well as spoiler-free reviews for Andor, Amsterdam, and Hocus Pocus 2, and a ton of interviews, like our interviews with Hocus Pocus 2 director Anne Fletcher and some of the cast. And we also have interviews with both the lead writer for She-Hulk, Jessica Gao, and the director of this episode, Kat Coiro. So go check out all those interviews and more, available both on podcast services and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And lastly, we recently dropped our trailer drop for Yahoo! That was the worst Mario I've ever done. For the Super Mario Bros. Movie teaser trailer. Darcy and I share our first, thoughts and on the first look at Illumination Studios' take on the Mushroom Kingdom. So go give that episode a listen. Go give all those episodes a listen, a like, leave a 5-star review, subscribe, do all the things if you don't mind. Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say, Hulk smashed. She smashed.
Stop. Oh, God.
She smashed. They smashed. It was amazing.